Welcome back to LPBW Update, the only place where we dig deep into the reality behind the reality TV cameras. Ladies and gentlemen, hold on to your seats because the world of Little People, Big World has just shattered into a million pieces. We aren't talking about a farm dispute or a pumpkin season argument anymore. We are talking about allegations of federal crimes. We are talking about the FBI potentially knocking on the doors of Roloff Farms. Reports are flooding in, and sources are whispering about a betrayal so dark, so calculated, and so illegal that it makes every other feud we have covered look like child's play. We are talking about wiretapping. We are talking about secret listening devices allegedly found inside Amy Roloff's new home. And the person pointing the finger, the evidence trails all the way back to Matt Roloff and Caryn Chandler. You thought you knew how low the farm war could go, but you have no idea. This is the story of the illegal wiretap, and if these reports are true, someone is going to prison. Before we dive into the terrified panic that is currently sweeping through the Roloff family and the specific evidence Jeremy discovered, you need to make sure you are part of this investigation. We are releasing updates faster than the tabloids can print them. Hit that like button right now if you think Amy deserves justice, and make sure you are subscribed with the notification bell turned on. We have rumors of audio leaks coming up that you do not want to miss. Join the community and let's expose the truth together. To understand the magnitude of this bombshell, we have to go back. We have to look at the timeline with a fresh pair of eyes because suddenly, everything makes a terrifying amount of sense. Do you remember when Amy was finally moving off the farm? Do you remember the chaos of her buying her new house? At the time, viewers thought it was just Matt being Matt. He was pushy. He insisted on inspecting the house. He told Amy he wanted to help her check the structure. He claimed he was looking for mold, checking the foundation, ensuring that the HVAC systems were up to code. At the time, it seemed like a gesture from an ex-husband who, despite everything, still cared about the mother of his children. It seemed like a peace offering, but insiders are now suggesting that this was never a peace offering. This was a Trojan horse operation. New theories suggest that Matt's insistence on inspecting the property wasn't about safety, it was about access. It was about getting inside that house before Amy moved in to install a surveillance network that would give him ears in every room. We have received reports that the mold inspection was a cover story to plant high-tech listening devices in key areas of Amy's home: the kitchen, the living room, and even the master bedroom. The goal? To monitor Amy's legal strategy regarding the farm, to listen in on her private conversations with Chris, and to stay one step ahead in the negotiations that were tearing the family apart. But Matt made one critical mistake. He underestimated his own son. The protagonist of this shocking discovery isn't Amy, and it isn't Chris, it's Jeremy Roloff. We know Jeremy has stepped away from the show to focus on his own projects, his podcast, and his photography. Jeremy is a tech guy. He knows cameras, he knows audio equipment, and he knows frequencies. According to exclusive theories circulating among those close to the production, Jeremy was at his mom's new house helping her with a renovation project. He was filming a time-lapse for social media, utilizing high-end wireless audio gear to capture the ambient sound of the work. This is where the story turns into a thriller. While Jeremy was setting up his equipment in the living room, he started getting interference. Anyone who works with audio knows the sound. It's a crackle, a pop, a ghostly frequency bleeding into your headphones. Usually, it's just a stray radio signal or a bad cable, but Jeremy couldn't clear the channel. The interference was strong, constant, and it was coming from inside the room. Being the tech-savvy guy he is, Jeremy didn't just ignore it. He started sweeping the room with his receiver, playing a game of hot and cold, trying to isolate the source of the electronic noise that was ruining his recording. He walked past the television. Nothing. He walked past the router. Nothing. But when he pointed his receiver toward the main air vent near the ceiling, the very same vent Matt had spent 20 minutes inspecting months prior, the signal screamed. Jeremy grabbed a ladder. He unscrewed the vent cover, thinking maybe a contractor had left a tool up there, or there was some old wiring causing a short. He reached his hand into the dusty ductwork. His fingers brushed against something that shouldn't have been there. It wasn't dust, and it wasn't a loose wire. It was a small black battery-operated box magnetically attached to the inside of the metal duct with a tiny microphone specifically pointed downward through the grates. This wasn't a baby monitor. This wasn't a forgotten toy. This was professional-grade surveillance equipment. Sources claim Jeremy pulled the device down, his face draining of color as he realized what he was holding. He recognized the brand. It was a long-range transmitter, the kind of gear you buy when you want to listen to someone from miles away, the kind of gear that transmits live audio to a receiver. And the terrifying realization hit him. The device was warm. It was on. It was transmitting right then and there. Can you imagine the horror? Jeremy standing on that ladder, holding a bug that had been listening to his mother for who knows how long. He immediately stripped the batteries out, silencing the signal. But the damage was done. The silence in the house was deafening. He called Amy immediately. He didn't text. He didn't voice a note. He called her and told her to come home instantly and to not say a word inside the house until she got there. When Amy arrived, the scene was chaotic. Jeremy began a frantic sweep of the entire property. This wasn't a paranoia trip anymore. This was a crime scene. They went room by room. They checked the smoke detectors. They checked the backs of the cable boxes. They checked the underside of the dining room table. And allegedly, they found more. According to insider speculation, a second device was located in the kitchen, tucked behind the refrigerator near the floor, a prime spot to catch conversations at the dinner table. A third was found in the hallway. This was not an accident. This was a coordinated, systematic invasion of privacy. The question then became, who? Who would do this? Who would have the access, the motive, and the technical know-how to pull this off? The list of suspects was short. In fact, it was a list of one, Matt Roloff. Amy recalled vividly how Matt had spent time alone in those exact rooms during the inspection. She remembered him carrying a tool bag that he wouldn't let anyone else touch. She remembered him telling her to go check the backyard while he tested the airflow in the living room. The pieces of the puzzle were slamming together to form a picture of betrayal so absolute it was nauseating. But here is where the story gets even darker. This wasn't just about property lines or NDAs. This wasn't just about beating Amy in court. These devices were live. They were transmitting 24/7. That means whoever was on the receiving end wasn't just hearing legal strategy. They were hearing everything. They were hearing Amy and Chris in their most private, intimate moments as a newly married couple. They were hearing arguments, laughter, fears, and tears. And most heartbreaking of all, they were hearing the grandchildren. Think about that for a second. When Jackson and Lila came over to visit Mimi, their innocent voices, their playtimes, their private conversations with their grandmother were being beamed out of that house and recorded. Matt wasn't just spying on his ex-wife, he was spying on his own grandchildren. He was violating the sanctity of the one place Amy was supposed to feel safe. The alleged level of creepiness here is off the charts. It's one thing to be a control freak. It's another thing to be a predator of privacy. Jeremy, realizing the signal was radio-based, knew it had a limited range. It wasn't sending data over the internet. It was sending a radio frequency. That meant the receiver had to be relatively close, or it had to be high power. He checked the frequency logs on the device he found. It was a specific UHF channel. And guess what? Insider reports claimed that Jeremy recognized that frequency. It was the same frequency band used by the heavy-duty walkie-talkie systems and security comms back at Roloff Farms. The signal was being beamed directly from Amy's new house across the hills, right back to Matt's office. The betrayal is physical, it's tangible. You can feel the sickness in your stomach just hearing about it. Amy reportedly broke down in tears, not out of sadness, but out of pure, violated rage. She felt dirty. She felt watched. She realized that for months, every time she vented about Matt to Chris, Matt was likely sitting in his office, swirling a glass of wine, listening to every word, taking notes, and laughing with Caryn. And yes, we have to talk about Caryn, because there is no way, according to these theories, that Matt did this alone. Matt has mobility issues. Matt can't easily climb onto counters to plant bugs behind fridges or unscrew ceiling vents without help or a lookout. The timeline of the inspection places Caryn at the scene for part of the day. Did she distract Amy while Matt worked, or did she plant the devices herself? The smoking gun that we are going to discuss in a moment suggests that Caryn wasn't just an accomplice, she was an active consumer of the stolen audio. The legal implications here are catastrophic. Wiretapping is a federal felony. We are talking about the Electronic Communications Privacy Act. In the state of Oregon, as well as federally, it is illegal to record conversations without the consent of at least one party, and in some contexts, all parties. But planting a bug in a private residence where you are not present, that is strictly illegal. That is prison time. If the FBI gets involved and sources say they might already be, Matt and Caryn aren't looking at a slap on the wrist. They are looking at up to 5 years in federal prison and massive fines. Amy's legal team is allegedly on a warpath. They are looking to bring in forensic experts to sweep the house for any dormant devices that Jeremy might have missed. They are looking to subpoena the purchase records of that surveillance equipment. If they can find a credit card receipt from Matt or Caryn purchasing those specific transmitters, it's game over. There is no defense. You cannot claim farm security for a device found inside someone else's house. But the most damning piece of evidence, the thing that reportedly turns this from a theory into a nightmare, is what was found on the other end. Jeremy didn't just stop at finding the bugs. He wanted proof of who was listening. He allegedly used his connections and his knowledge of the farm's server network, passwords he likely still had from when he worked on the farm's IT and security, to remotely check the logs on the farm's main server. He was looking for a specific input matching the frequency of the bugs. He found a folder on the Roloff Farms private server. It wasn't labeled pumpkins. It wasn't labeled taxes. The folder was allegedly labeled Amy Kitchen Live. The timestamp showed files being created daily. Hundreds of hours of audio. Jeremy downloaded one file at random. He put on his headphones, his hands shaking. He pressed play, and what he heard confirmed his worst fears. It was audio of Amy and Chris eating dinner. The quality was crystal clear. You could hear the clinking of silverware. You could hear Chris asking Amy about the wedding plans. But then, over the audio of the dinner came another sound. A sound from the recording room where the audio was being captured. It was a cough. A distinct dry cough, and then a voice whispering over the recording, commenting on what Amy was saying. The voice allegedly said, "She has no idea we know about the offer." The voice was female. The voice, sources claim, was unmistakably Caryn Chandler. This changes everything. This proves that not only were the devices planted, but they were being actively monitored. Matt and Caryn were allegedly sitting together, treating Amy's private life like their own personal reality show, listening in to gain leverage, to mock her, and to control the narrative. This is the definition of malice. This is a level of obsession that borders on pathology. But we are just scratching the surface of what was on those tapes. The contents of that server reveal a conspiracy that goes deeper than just the farm negotiations. There were files labeled with the names of the children. There were files regarding Zach and Tori. It appears that the surveillance state of Roloff Farms knew no boundaries. And now that the lid has been blown off, the panic at the farm is palpable. We have received reports of lights on at the big house at 3 o'clock a.m. We have heard rumors of shredding trucks being called to the property. Matt is trying to scrub the evidence, but he doesn't know that Jeremy allegedly made a copy. The Amy Kitchen Live file is out there. The digital footprint exists, and if that file is played in a court of law, the empire that Matt Roloff built will crumble to dust. What happens next is a legal showdown of biblical proportions. Amy has reportedly fled the house, staying with friends because she feels unsafe in her own home. She feels violated. Chris is furious, reportedly threatening to go to the farm and confront Matt physically, only being held back by the realization that this needs to be handled by the authorities. The trust is gone. The family is not just fractured. It is vaporized. There is no coming back from this. You cannot patch up a relationship when one person has been wiretapping the other. As we prepare to move into the next phase of this report, we need to talk about the specific contents of the audio. What exactly did Matt and Caryn hear? What secrets did Amy discuss that are now in the hands of her enemies? And most importantly, how is Matt planning to spin this? Because we know Matt. He always has a spin. He always has an excuse. But how do you excuse a hidden microphone in an air vent? Rumor has it Matt is preparing a statement claiming the devices were left over from the previous owners, or that they were safety monitors he installed with good intentions and forgot to tell Amy about. He might try to claim he was monitoring for carbon monoxide or break-ins, but the audio logs don't lie. You don't label a carbon monoxide file Amy Kitchen Live. You don't comment on the conversations if you are just listening for smoke alarms. The lie is already collapsing before he even tells it. The fallout has reached the network as well. TLC is reportedly scrambling. If their star talent is arrested for federal wiretapping, the show is over. The liability is massive. Producers are allegedly in emergency meetings, trying to decide if they need to distance themselves from Matt immediately. The cameras might be rolling right now, capturing the panic, but this is footage that might never make it to air unless it's entered as evidence in a criminal trial. We are going to dive into the specific conversations that were recorded. We are going to discuss the reaction of Zach and Tori when they found out their children were being monitored. And we are going to reveal the scorched earth legal strategy that Amy is about to unleash on the man she once called her husband. This is war. And Matt Roloff just fired the first shot, but he fired it into his own foot. Stay tuned, because the audio snippets we are hearing about are more damaging than anyone could have predicted. You think you know Caryn Chandler? Wait until you hear what she allegedly said on the hot mic while listening to Amy cry. It reveals a side of her so cold it will freeze your blood. Do not stop watching. The investigation continues, the evidence is mounting, and the walls are closing in on Roloff Farms. We left off with Jeremy Roloff standing in the dark, headphones pressed to his ears, listening to a digital file that should not exist. He was listening to the secret recordings of his own mother, Amy Roloff, inside her private sanctuary. But what he heard next didn't just break his heart. It shattered the entire foundation of the Roloff family dynamic. We are talking about the hot mic incident. You see, when Matt and Caryn were allegedly listening to these illegal transmissions, they weren't just silent observers, they were commentators. And because the recording setup in Matt's office was capturing both the incoming audio from Amy's house and the ambient audio in Matt's office, Jeremy could hear their reactions in real time. Sources close to the investigation have leaked the alleged contents of a file dated just 3 days before Amy signed a major legal document regarding the farm sale. In the recording, Amy is sitting at her kitchen island with Chris. She is vulnerable. She is crying. She is telling Chris that she feels bullied, that she doesn't want to fight anymore, and she reveals her absolute bottom line price, the lowest number she would accept just to be done with the toxicity. She says, "I can't take it anymore, Chris. If he offers X amount, I'll just take it and walk away." Now pause. In a normal world, that is a private moment of weakness. But on the tape Jeremy found, you can hear the click of a wine glass being set down in Matt's office. You hear a chair swivel, and then you hear Caryn Chandler. Insider reports claim her voice is clear as day, dripping with a cold, calculated satisfaction. She allegedly laughs, a sharp, dismissive laugh, and says to Matt, "See, I told you she was weak. She's folding. Drop the offer by another $50,000. She'll take it. She's desperate." Let that sink in. This wasn't just voyeurism. This was corporate espionage. This was a fraud. Matt and Caryn allegedly used these illegal wiretaps to manipulate the divorce settlement and the farm buyout negotiations in real time. They knew Amy's cards before she played them. They knew her breaking point because they were listening to her cry about it in her own kitchen. This explains everything. It explains why Matt was always one step ahead. It explains why every time Amy thought she had leverage, Matt would suddenly counter with the exact number that would make her crumble. He wasn't a business genius. He was a cheater. He was rigging the game using a federal felony to save money. Jeremy reportedly felt sick. He was listening to his father and his father's girlfriend mock his mother's pain, using her tears as a strategy to save a few bucks on the buyout. The betrayal is so profound, it's almost Shakespearean. But the horror didn't stop with the financial manipulation. The Amy Kitchen Live folder was just one directory. As Jeremy scrolled through the server, his blood ran cold when he saw files labeled with the names of his nieces and nephews. We have to talk about the Grandkids. This is where the story shifts from a legal drama to a moral outrage. One of the hidden devices was allegedly located in the living room near the play area where Jackson and Lila often spent time when visiting Mimi. The audio files in this folder weren't about business. They were just recordings of children playing. Why would Matt need this? Why would he record Jackson talking to Amy about his leg pain? Why would he record Lila practicing her words? Theories suggest a darker motive: control. Matt has always been obsessed with the narrative that he is the super grandpa, the patriarch who provides everything. By listening in on the kids, he could artificially engineer magical moments. If Jackson told Amy he really wanted a specific Lego set, Matt would hear it, buy that exact set, and present it to Jackson the next day before Amy could. He would look like the hero who could read minds, while Amy looked like she was lagging behind. It was a psychological operation to win the affection of the grandchildren by stealing their private desires from conversations they had with their grandmother. But it gets worse. Sources indicate there is a file where Zach and Tori are discussing their concerns about Matt's health and his behavior. They were having a private, concerned conversation as parents and children. They were worried about him, and on the recording, you can allegedly hear Matt listening to their concern and mocking it. You hear him screaming at the monitor, calling Zach ungrateful and brainwashed. Instead of seeing their concern as love, he saw it as a threat, and he used that stolen information to preemptively attack Zach in their next meeting. This rewrites the history of the Zach and Matt feud. It wasn't just stubbornness. Matt was poisoning the well based on private conversations he had no right to hear. When Jeremy brought this information to Zach, the reaction was explosive. We are told that Zach didn't just get mad, he went silent. It was the silence of a man who was done. This explains the sudden total estrangement we have seen in recent months. Zach isn't keeping the grandkids away out of spite. He is keeping them away for their own protection. He now views the farm not as a legacy, but as a surveillance state. He views his father not as a grandpa, but as a spy. The report states that Zach immediately hired a counter-surveillance team to sweep his own new house in Washington, terrified that his father's reach extended across state lines. The paranoia that Matt Roloff has inflicted on his own family is permanent. And what about the network? Where is TLC in all of this? This is the multi-million-dollar question. The production crew has been filming at Amy's new house for months. Did they know? Did a cameraman see the device in the vent and stay silent? Or were they duped too? Reports from the set suggest that the production legal team is currently in a state of absolute panic. If footage airs that includes audio captured from these illegal devices, even inadvertently, the network could be liable for distributing illegally obtained communications. We are hearing rumors that TLC has issued a cease and desist on all filming at Roloff Farms until an internal investigation is complete. The show is effectively frozen. The producers are terrified that they have been accessories to a crime. There is talk of raw footage being seized by investigators. If Matt used any production resources, like the show's audio engineers or equipment, to facilitate this wiretap, the entire Little People, Big World franchise is done. Canceled, erased. You cannot have a family reality show when the patriarch is facing 5 years in prison for bugging the matriarch. So how does Matt respond when he is caught red-handed? Does he apologize? Does he beg for forgiveness? No. He spins. We have received exclusive intel on the defense strategy Matt is currently concocting with his high-priced lawyers, and it is the most gaslighting, manipulative narrative you have ever heard. Matt is allegedly preparing to release a statement claiming that the devices were not listening bugs, but smart home sensors intended to monitor air quality, humidity, and radon levels for Amy's safety. He is going to claim that he, as a loving ex-husband and experienced contractor, was just worried about mold in the new house. He will say the audio transmission capability was a factory default setting that he forgot to turn off. He is going to try to play the bumbling, helpful grandpa card. I was just trying to protect Amy from mold. I didn't know it was recording. That is the line he is going to feed the press. But Jeremy has the smoking gun that destroys this lie. The frequency logs don't lie. A radon detector doesn't transmit to a private server folder labeled Amy Kitchen Live. A humidity sensor doesn't have a directional microphone pointed at the dinner table. And most importantly, radon detectors don't come with Caryn Chandler's voiceover mocking Amy's divorce settlement figures. The lie is dead on arrival, but that won't stop Matt from trying to sell it to the public. He is banking on the fact that his fans want to believe he is a good guy. He is banking on his charm. But you can't charm your way out of a frequency log. The psychological toll on Amy is devastating. Friends say she is oscillating between rage and total despair. She feels like her entire post-divorce life has been a lie. Every time she felt she was making progress with Matt, every time they had a good day, it was because he was manipulating her based on intel he gathered illegally. She realizes she never actually won any battles. Matt just let her have the crumbs he didn't want. The sense of violation is physical. She has reportedly ordered the vents in her house to be welded shut or replaced entirely. She refuses to speak inside her own home without loud music playing in the background to scramble any potential signals. This is how the innocent live when they are hunted by the guilty. And let's look at Caryn's role again, because it is becoming the focal point of the potential criminal charges. While Matt might argue he owns the equipment, the hot mic evidence places Caryn as an active participant in the illegal act. In the eyes of the law, listening to an illegal wiretap and utilizing that information for financial gain, the farm negotiation, makes you a co-conspirator. The legal term is accessory after the fact and conspiracy to commit wiretapping. If the FBI verifies Jeremy's findings, Caryn isn't just a witness, she is a defendant. We are hearing that Caryn is turning on Matt. Self-preservation is kicking in. Sources suggest Caryn has been spotted meeting with her own separate legal counsel, distinct from Matt's team. That is a massive red flag. That means she is preparing a defense that says, I didn't know, Matt did it, I just sat in the room. She is preparing to cut him loose to save herself. The romance of Roloff Farms is dying in a lawyer's office. If Caryn flips on Matt, if she testifies that he instructed her to transcribe the tapes or that he bragged about planting the bugs, Matt is finished. There is no coming back. The atmosphere at the farm right now is described as apocalyptic. The staff are being made to sign new, terrifyingly strict non-disclosure agreements. Security has been tripled, not to keep fans out, but to keep prying eyes away from the server room. But it's too late. Jeremy has the hard drive, the data is off-site, the Amy Kitchen Live file is safe, and it is ready to be played for a grand jury. But here is the twist that no one saw coming. The twist that leads us into the final explosive part of this report. Jeremy didn't just find audio of Amy. In his deep dive into the server, he found something else. He found a folder labeled with a name that hasn't been mentioned in years. A folder that suggests this wiretapping operation didn't start with Amy's new house. It suggests that this has been going on for a decade. It suggests that the cameras TLC brought in weren't the only ones watching. Jeremy found a folder labeled Jacob. That's right, the youngest son, the rebel, the one who left the show and spoke out against the family business. If Matt was tapping Amy, was he also tapping Jacob when he was a teenager? Was he listening to Jacob's private rebellion? This opens a door to a past so dark, it could explain every single trauma this family has endured. As we prepare for the final segment of this expose, ask yourself, how far would a narcissist go to maintain control? Would he bug his wife? Yes. Would he bug his grandkids? Yes. But would he bug his own rebellious son to keep him in line? We are going to reveal the contents of the Jacob files. We are going to discuss the FBI's imminent raid on the property. And we are going to tell you about the nuclear option Amy and Chris are planning to execute next week. A press conference that will end little people, big world forever. Matt Roloff thought he was the director of his own reality. He thought he could edit the scenes, control the audio, and produce the perfect outcome. But he forgot that in the real world, you can't say cut when the police arrive. The walls aren't just closing in, they are caving in. And the sound of the collapse is being recorded loud and clear. The final part, a terrifying chapter of this investigation. We are staring into the abyss of the Roloff dynasty, and the abyss is staring back with a camera lens and a microphone. When we left you, Jeremy Roloff had just made a discovery that turned this from a current crime into a historical tragedy. He found the Jacob folder. To understand the gravity of this, you have to understand the history of the youngest son. Jacob Roloff didn't just leave the show, he escaped it. He famously called out the fakeness of the production, the exploitation of his childhood, and the scripted nature of the family's life. For years, we thought his anger came from being forced to film. But the contents of this server folder suggest a much darker reality. The files date back years. They date back to when Jacob was a teenager, living under Matt's roof, planning his exit, venting to his friends on the phone, and crying in his room. The theory is shattering. Matt wasn't just filming Jacob for TLC. He was allegedly wiretapping his own son's bedroom to monitor his rebellion. Insiders believe Matt knew exactly when Jacob was going to leave, exactly what he was telling his friends, and exactly how much he resented the farm because he was listening to it all on a private channel. This recontextualizes the entire breakdown of their relationship. Jacob didn't drift away. He was pushed away by a father who treated his son's privacy as a security threat. If Jacob finds out, and sources say Jeremy has already sent him the evidence, this isn't just a family feud. This is a lawsuit that could bankrupt the farm entirely. Jacob has always been the one most willing to speak truth to power. If he takes a stand, armed with proof that his childhood bedroom was bugged, Matt Roloff will be pariah number one in the reality TV world. But the focus right now is on the immediate kinetic action happening in Oregon. The discovery of the Amy Kitchen Live folder and the Jacob archives has triggered what we are calling the nuclear option. Amy Roloff, a woman who has spent decades trying to keep the peace, trying to be the bigger person, and trying to protect the family image, is reportedly done. She has gone nuclear. We have received word that Amy and Chris have retained a high-profile federal attorney, a specialist in privacy law and corporate espionage. They aren't looking for a settlement. They aren't looking for an apology. They are reportedly preparing a press conference that will burn the Roloff reputation to the ground. The plan, according to insiders, is to publicly release the frequency logs. They want to show the world the proof. They want to play the audio of the interference Jeremy found. They want to put Matt's paranoia on display for the entire world to see. This press conference, tentatively scheduled for early next week, is designed to do one thing: force the hand of the authorities. By taking this public, Amy is ensuring that the FBI cannot ignore the case. She is ensuring that TLC cannot sweep this under the rug. She is putting her safety and her truth above the NDA she signed years ago. She is effectively saying, sue me if you want, but I'm telling the world, you bugged my house. And the authorities are listening. We are hearing reports of activity near the Helvetia area that suggests federal interests. Black SUVs have been spotted near the perimeter of the farm. This fits the profile of a preliminary stakeout or a preparation for a warrant execution. If the FBI raids Roloff Farms, they won't just be looking for the receiver in Matt's office. They will be seizing computers, hard drives, phones, and the entire server rack. They will be looking for the digital fingerprints that link Matt to the purchase of the surveillance gear. And where does this leave Caryn Chandler? As the walls close in, the alliance is fracturing. We hinted at this before, but new information suggests the break is total. Caryn has reportedly moved out of the farm. She is no longer staying in the double wide or the new build. She has retreated to her own property, and sources say she has changed her number. Matt is isolated. The woman who was his partner in crime, his confidant, and allegedly his co-listener on those illicit tapes has ghosted him. Legal experts weigh in that this is the classic prisoner's dilemma. If Caryn talks first, she gets immunity. If she hands over the tapes, if she testifies that Matt ordered the installation of the bugs, she walks away with a probation sentence while Matt takes the fall. And knowing Caryn's history of looking out for her own security, the smart money is on her flipping. We might see Caryn Chandler as the star witness for the prosecution in United States versus Matthew Roloff. The fallout extends to the very existence of the show. Little People, Big World is effectively dead. There is no path forward. You cannot film a show about a family when the father is facing felony charges for spying on the mother. The audience won't accept it. The advertisers won't touch it. TLC is reportedly already editing a series finale special, trying to scrap together whatever footage they have to close the book before the indictments come down. They want to distance themselves as fast as possible. The irony is bitter. The show that built this farm is now the casualty of the farm's darkest secret. Imagine the scene at the farm right now. The pumpkin patch is quiet. The attractions are empty. And Matt Roloff is sitting in that office, surrounded by screens, realizing that the technology he loves so much has become his cage. He wanted to see everything. He wanted to hear everything. And now the whole world is seeing him for what he really is, the control freak who lost control. The psychological profile here is fascinating and tragic. Matt spent a lifetime overcoming physical obstacles. building an empire where he was the king. But his insecurity was the one giant he couldn't slay. He couldn't trust that people loved him. He couldn't trust that Amy would be fair. He couldn't trust that his kids would stay loyal. So he replaced trust with surveillance. He replaced love with leverage. And in doing so, he destroyed the very thing he was trying to protect. He wanted to keep the family on the farm, but his actions have ensured that no Roloff will ever want to set foot on that land again. Zach and Tori are reportedly looking into restraining orders, not just for themselves, but for Jackson, Lila, and Josiah. They want legal documentation that prevents Matt from coming within a certain distance of their new home in Washington. They are taking steps to scrub their digital lives, terrified that Matt has installed spyware on their phones or laptops. The trauma of this betrayal will last for generations. Jackson will grow up knowing his grandpa bugged his house. That is a scar that doesn't heal. Amy's strength in this moment is inspiring. She is devastated, yes. She feels violated, yes. But she is refusing to be the victim. By going on the offensive, by working with Jeremy to uncover the truth, she is taking back her power. She is reclaiming her privacy. The inspection was a lie. The kindness was a lie. But her resolve is real. Chris has been her rock, standing by her, validating her feelings, and proving that real love doesn't need a listening device to understand someone. Real love is based on trust, something Matt apparently never understood. So what happens next? We are on death watch for the Roloff empire. We are waiting for the press conference. We are waiting for the mugshot. It sounds extreme, but federal wiretapping laws are not a joke. People go to prison for less if the audio files Jeremy found are authenticated, and if the voice on the tape is confirmed to be Caryn, the legal system will grind them down. There is a theory circulating that Matt might try to flee. He has resources, he has property in Arizona, but federal charges cross state lines. There is nowhere to run. The big house he is building, the dream home he sacrificed his family for, might end up sitting empty, an unfinished monument to a man who cared more about the foundation of a house than the foundation of his family. We also have to consider the silence of the other siblings, Molly, Jacob. They are watching this unfold. Their silence is deafening, but it speaks volumes. It is the silence of validation. They aren't rushing to defend their dad. They aren't posting statements saying this is a misunderstanding. They know, deep down, they have always known that the boundaries on the farm were non-existent. Now, they finally have the proof. The legacy of Little People, Big World will not be the weddings, the babies, or the pumpkin seasons. It will be this. It will be the wiretap. It will be the image of Jeremy Roloff pulling a black box out of an air vent and realizing his father was listening. It is a Shakespearean tragedy played out on reality TV. We are going to be tracking this story hour by hour. As soon as the press conference is announced, we will be live. As soon as the FBI makes a move, we will have the footage. As soon as Caryn makes a statement, we will break it down. You cannot afford to look away. This is the implosion of a 20-year legacy in real time. Is Matt Roloff a criminal mastermind or just a paranoid, lonely man who made a catastrophic mistake? The courts will decide that. But the verdict from the family is already in. Guilty. Guilty of betrayal. Guilty of breaking the heart of the family. We have the frequency logs. We have the insider reports. And soon we might have the audio itself. If you want to be the first to hear the Amy Kitchen live tapes, if you want to see the fall of Roloff Farms, you need to subscribe right now, hit that notification bell, share this video with every LPBW fan you know, because the truth is finally coming out, and it is louder than anyone expected. Matt Roloff, if you are listening, and we know you like to listen, the game is over. The world is watching you now. This has been an LPBW Update exclusive. Stay safe, check your vents, and keep your eyes open. We will see you in the next video.